Halloween was always a time of scares and frights in the town of Blackwood. You see, for this New England town, Halloween was a spectacle embedded in its very culture. Many a witch from Blackwood had died in the witch trials of old, and many now could still trace their family trees to these very witches. No one truly believed that their ancestors really had the powers attributed to witches, but it was intriguing nonetheless to those that could say they were part witch. Thus, Blackwood was imbued with all that is scary and occult, and thus Halloween was a holiday most celebrated in Blackwood. This dark Halloween night, 10-year-old Sarah found herself waiting at the end of her driveway for her friends Liam and Ben, who would accompany her in this year's trick or treating. Cavities be damned, she was willing to risk it for a night of sweet treats and Halloween fun. She, being one of those few that could trace her lineage to witches, thought it most appropriate to dress as one for Halloween this year. Her tall, pointy hat was just barely visible atop her head in the moonlight, giving her an eerie silhouette. She had wanted a broom to round out her costume, but she couldn't find one at home and had to settle for a mop instead. Not exactly witch-like, she supposed, but she wasn't expecting to fly on it anyway. Just then, her friends Ben and Liam appeared from the darkness down the street, racing as they went. From what she could tell, Liam was dressed as either a bum or a zombie, and Ben, who was covered in a bedsheet, was a ghost, or so she surmised. She could tell it was Ben because of his belly, which was poking through the bedsheet, making him look like a pregnant ghost. Liam made it to the edge of the driveway first and let out an audible exclamation of his win. "Yes, I told you I'd beat you," he said. You cheated. You started before me. It doesn't count," Ben stammered. "Did not," Liam denied. "Did too," argued Ben. "Oh, will you give it a rest?" interrupted Sarah. "We have candy to be collecting, and I've already wasted enough time waiting for you two as it is." Liam and Ben looked at each other with competitive scowls, but agreed that candy was more important than almost anything, as it usually is with children. Sarah told them her plans and which houses were best to get candy from and which houses were worst, which houses gave king-size candy bars and which houses gave apples. Without a second to lose, the three set off into the night, candy bags dancing by their sides as they rushed down the street to collect their sugary delights. This Halloween did not disappoint. The three of them walked away from the last house with bags full and grins wide. Ben, who had been eating his candy throughout the night, had chocolate smeared all over his face, and he wondered if candy could flow through your veins, for he was convinced it was currently doing just that within his body. He looked up from his sugary days and realized they were at the edge of Blackwood Forest. The town was named after these woods, and the woods were aptly named Blackwood due to their dark nature. The bark was almost black in color, and the trees grew so close to one another that light, even on a full moon, could barely pierce the tree's canopy and nourish the ground below. Sarah now looked at her watch, supposing that it might be time to return home, and was shocked to find it was close to 10 p.m. Her mother had given her the watch so that she would return home on time, and she had promised her mother she would return not a minute past 10. Her face of joy turned to one of horror, and she shrieked to her friends, "We have to get back. I'm going to be late, and I promised my mum I'd be back by 10. "Well, all right then," said Ben, still dazed from his sugar spike. "We'll just start walking back then." "You don't understand," she said. "We won't make it back in time, even if we run." "Well, we could take a shortcut," Liam said, pointing to the forest as he spoke the words. "In there?" questioned Ben. "But I thought—" "What about the witch?" There was an uneasy tone to his voice as he questioned Liam's plan. "There's no such thing as witches, you doofus," sneered Liam. Sarah did not fully believe Liam's remarks. After all, she was descended from those accused of witchcraft. but she had heard the stories and knew that the forest was said to be a place of great evil. It was said that an evil witch roamed the woods, cackling and screaming incantations at the moon, but she had always thought they were just stories. Still, they had left their mark and had made her and all the children of the town cautious of the forest. No one entered, least of all at night. Sarah, though filled with unease, couldn't think of any other way home that would be faster than cutting through the forest. She had never been late in her life, and she didn't want to start now. "Will you two stop being chickens and hurry up?" she said as she strode toward the dark undergrowth of the forest. "It's the fastest way." "Fine, but if we get eaten by some old hag, it's your fault," yelled Liam, following her into the dark. "Wait, where are we going?" questioned Ben, not fully back from his self-induced candy delirium. "I thought, oh man!" He stepped timidly to the edge of the woods and then quickly followed in after the other two, who were now out of sight. And with that, the company found themselves in the thick of it. Thorns and branches blocked their path forward, but were led quickly through it by Sarah, who was determined to make it home on time. They walked deeper and deeper into the woods until they came upon a clearing where a stream ran through the heart of the forest. It became immediately clear that there was something strange about this place. There were no birds or animals making sounds. In fact, the forest was almost completely silent, save for the stream which babbled upon the roots of the blackened trees which lined the woods. The eerie silence left the children spooked. "I don't like this place," said Ben. "Neither do I, so let's hurry along and get out of here," said Sarah. The children turned to leave the clearing but stopped dead in their tracks. In the distance, on the other side of the stream, was an old woman. She was dressed in raggedy clothes, which were torn and frayed. She was skeletal, almost too frail to stand, it seemed. She looked intensely at the children, a smile creeping along her face. "Good evening, my pretties. What are you doing so far out in the woods tonight?" she said, her voice cracking as she spoke. The children gave each other horrified looks. No one lived out here, and the hungry look the woman was giving them made them anxious. "We were just cutting through," said Sarah cautiously. "Nonsense," said the old woman. "You must stay for dinner. I've eaten all the birds and the squirrels, but tonight I will feast on something more substantial." These words struck the children as odd. Why the woods were void of animal life became immediately clear, and the realization made the children ghostly pale. "No, thank you. We should be leaving," responded Sarah. The children again turned to leave the clearing, hoping to put the interaction behind them and finally get out of the woods. Their departure was met with the sound of cracking bones. They turned their heads to see the source and saw that the old woman was quickly running towards them, her crooked form twisting in the darkness as she strode in their direction. The children, filled with terror, began to run. They ran without direction, through thorn bush and thistle without looking back. From behind them they could hear the old woman cackling in the darkness as she pursued them. "You wouldn't leave an old woman hungry now, would you? Come back, my pretties," she called. The children could see the edge of the woods. A gleam of light from a streetlight was just barely visible through the bramble. They were just within sight of making their escape when Ben got stuck in a thorn bush. "He's stuck!" yelled Liam nervously. Ben was thrashing, trying to free himself from the thorn's embrace, but was getting increasingly tangled. "We need to get him out," yelled Sarah. Liam and Sarah grabbed Ben's hands to pull him out, but it was too late. The woman latched onto Ben's leg, clawing at his flesh with her long nails. Ben wailed in agony as his leg began to bleed. He kicked and screamed and was finally able to escape the woman's grasp for a split second. Liam and Sarah pulled hard on Ben's hands, so hard in fact that the three of them toppled over one another out of the forest and into the light under the street lamp. "That was close," said Sarah, still out of breath. "Close?" questioned Ben furiously. "You call that close? My leg looks like pulled pork." He was right. His leg was badly injured, yet he couldn't help but feel some kind of relief, knowing he had escaped what he knew was the witch of Blackwood Forest. "I'm just glad I didn't turn into the old hag's dinner," said Liam. "I'll make sure Ben gets this looked at. But you better get back home otherwise your mom will be livid." Sarah agreed. If she didn't get back, there was no telling when she would ever be allowed out again. The company got up to leave the safety of the street lamp, but as they did, they heard a faint call coming over their shoulders from the woods behind. "Don't be shy. Do visit again, my pretties. You're always invited for dinner."